All right, guys, welcome back to the channels. We have Africans here. We have We Max it Billy slash JD slash. Um, I won't talk about cities or Manchester's right now because hey, Antoine Semenyo, give me some joy. Give me some joy before he goes to Ghana. But hey, we're talking about women's U17s. Let me get my joy in. Okay, let me get my joy in. Women's U17s just wrapped up, and North Korea, who have been missing from the competition for a few years, have come back and not only won the U17s, but earlier this year, they've won the U20s. So right now, they are the queens of youth football for the year 2024. We're going to talk about this tournament. Also, with the new format coming in, we'll talk about what we think that can mean for some of the teams moving forward. But again, Mr. JD slash Billy slash citizen of Blue Town, how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I am doing well rested as well. So that is very much important. Yes, as what you said. Aside from hyping up your Ghanaian players that won't do anything for Ghana, we are going to be talking about U17s. I
Hey,
thought it was amazing. A lot of quality players, straight throat, pace, power, technical ability, and overall regions. We have to start talking about like asking if they are going to be dominant in the main part. That's the elite level of ladies football. All right, because North Korea seems to be finding ways to win things. Obviously I can go into details, but people will say I'm salty. So I will just leave that alone and congratulate North Korea. All right. Yes.
indeed, they ran a good tournament, and we'll talk about them again and again. We'll talk about people who do well in qualifying tournaments as well as tournaments over here. Ghanaian men apparently aren't that. But again, enough shots about the Black Stars. Let's talk about this tournament overall. Guys, if you are new to the channel here, I did do a short breakdown on the African teams, what they could do to improve, so you can go there as well. But looking at the groups really quickly again, you had Group A, you had Nigeria and Ecuador moving out of Group A, with Dom Rep and New Zealand finishing third and fourth. Spain and the US finishing top two in their groups. The US actually finished third overall, beating England, who finished second in their group with North Korea there. And then you have Group D with Japan and Poland. Poland had one of the better defenses, but ran into a very effective North Korean side and made it through. And those were your matchups, and that's what happened. And then when you got to your round of 16 quarterfinals, you had the US over Nigeria, North Korea over Poland, Spain shellacking Ecuador, and then England in penalties over Japan. In the semifinals, you had 1-0 North Korea over the US, and then Spain 3-0 over England. And then in the finals, third place game first, you had the United States over England, and then you had North Korea over Spain. I always like to look at these terms and say, are there players that stand out for me? I think on the women's side, for me, um, this is a women's term. I didn't have to say that, but Kennedy Fuller from the United States. We watched the
Correct.
CONCACAF. We watched the CONCACAF qualifiers there, so we saw her. I watched her when they played Canada. You saw what that player was about, and a solid player as she is. Then you saw her show some of those skills and those traits at this international level. I think she had an overall great performance. I think she finished with 4 goals, 3 assists overall throughout the whole tournament. Solid player, solid showing, and another player that Emma Hayes can look at and say, I don't need her now, but maybe in 2 years we can bring her up to the national team. Did you have any players that stood out for you in terms
Yes,
of
I do
youth?
have, but I wanted to add to your thing, on the conversation that Kennedy Fuller, yes, she brings me a very good vibe because what these youth 17s, I thought that it was about is to show you what is the most effective playing style that develops in ladies football the
Mm,
fastest. And I want to say it's technical ability. It is not speed and power.
yeah.
The faster you can be technically solid with enough speed and power, all right, I think it can shut down speed and power very much easily, and you're going to be dominant. And Kennedy Fuller is the person that you look at in the United States team to show you why that is a case. And also, I need to add Bassinas on it as well. I thought that she added the pace and trickery as well, and she is very much technical. So it really taught me a lot, and I am impressed with those two players for United States. Yes, I had a long list. Adebayo for Nigeria, I got to see her under pressure, and I thought that she was one of the better players for the entire tournament. Maybe some and Ibrahim as well. Both of them, I would say, both of them I'm impressed with. Pa from Spain, very very educated player. She outsmarts players relatively easily. All right, so that I am impressed with so much of these kids, and now I've realized that ladies football is going to go on a bigger rise than what I first thought, because now I'm literally seeing quality teams that will be competing with the other good top tier teams in the national leagues. So I'm impressed. Impressed. So I thought that I had like 78 players that I really liked. All right, defenders, because Nigeria was under pressure in all big games. Yes, because they don't have the technical ability. So it exposed their back line. And for United States midfield and forward, that gave them the advantage, which is Basenas playing over the left-hand side and a Fuller playing more of a midfielder role, the creative role right there.
Yeah.
Yes. And then now Pa, which is more like a wing forward striker type player. But our ability to find space is ridiculous. Yes, and obviously we can't leave out the North Koreans, but some of their names are very hard to pronounce, and I don't want to butcher them. But I thought that them as a collective, I think that's what they use to win games, and that's what they've always used to win games. They don't have the over the top, insanely technical player. And they don't have the over-the-top physical player. They just have players that are right within every one of them, and they put it together. So we are talking about, we can identify two players that separates the Nigeria team, the United States team. But yet still, for the North Korea team, you would say, okay, the strikers then get the glory and stuff. But I think from back to front, even their goalkeepers connect their goals, which I have to give them credit, them and Spain. So I was impressed with the overall growth of the football at U17s. I can't
No, I
believe
think
what I
that's a
was
fair
watching.
point. Yeah. No, it was good. And honestly, I think to the point you could tell the players who could think their way through a game, right? And you can see players who in moments, not their football IQ. You can see some of the players who you can tell that their football IQ was working and operating, going well. Fuller and Basenas are good examples of that.
My goodness,
honestly, like, and you could see the thing, and like, because we watched the U.S. Nigeria game, right? And we're not trying to pick on a specific player, but there are some players for Nigeria where it's like they get the ball and then you see, okay, you're reading the game saying, okay, move it around, get the ball to a space where you got players coming, and then for whatever reason they decide, let's just take a shot from here, and it's like you will learn that with when you get more reps and you start to see and read the game there. But you saw that, then you juxtapose that with the Americans, and you have Basenas who's getting the ball, getting out water, getting to the middle, using the half space well to really create some uncomfortable positions for Nigeria. And you're seeing players thinking, oh, it's like, okay, at this level, especially on the women's side, there is, yes, you'll have your athletes, yes, you have your specialists, but you can pick out the players who have the IQ and say, hey, we can do this now, we can think this game more. And I think if you can think it, then moving towards it makes a lot easier, because now when you're thinking it quickly, and so that you don't have to be the fastest player, you don't need to be the most physical one, you just need to get somewhere and read it that way, so that once you get the ball, you're already opening up the options there. And you saw that. They're saying it's a good option to that.
Got to agree with you. Yeah, right. I thought that the game that you used is not you picking on anyone. I can tell you, we have watched the game, and it was solely majority of the Nigerian players, they just couldn't play out of the press. They just never. It looks like it has to be a back to front, long ball, one-dimensional play. They can't work out of it. When you had individual players that figured out what Nigeria was doing, fixed their problem on the field themselves. That's what I said live. I was impressed with that, because that shows you that you have the technical ability and you have the mindset to figure out what you're doing. I'm not trying to switch this argument, but I heard in a basketball term,
Mm,
Jokic. They were talking about Jokic versus Timberwolves, and the fact that
yeah.
he knew what they were going to do without being in their huddle. That is people that's listening, remembering what's going on. I thought that Fuller, perfect example when she shut down the first ball and how fast they got it back to Bassinas to start the play. I'm saying yes, this is what you want.
Yeah.
So you have the technical ability, you have the footballing IQ, and you don't have the weight on the coach. When the
Hmm.
coach comes on, it's an afterthought. So they're gonna put two more on you. That's the coach's work, but we are going to fix this. So I was impressed, man. So yeah. So at the same time, guys, remember we had picked Adebayor and Ibrahim in our numbers, but
Yeah.
so that means we respect Nigeria, and I respect Nigeria highly. But you can clearly see that that was the low point. If you had those two defenders on a different on the United States team, they would have won the entire tournament because
Hmm.
they would have the recovery speed and the quality of the defending. So they might go straight forward, but that's how it is. We have to break it down, you know? Yeah.
No, agreed. And again, you saw different teams with different styles. I think the one thing I said with, say, the African team that they could improve if they changed their format, you would play different styles of games on a press levels.
Yes.
Press format, for those who aren't familiar, is very much two legs every window, and then there are three teams left, which means you're preparing for one side, which isn't bad. I mean, then you're saying, hey, you're getting a home and away game, which I mean, I would love to see that in CONCACAF, where you get, okay, let's say, you have Jamaica versus Costa Rica. Send the girls to Costa Rica for a game, and then bring those girls to Jamaica for another game, or Canada and then Panama, because it seems we play
But
them every
but
day. It
but
opens it,
I think
but
what you're saying is correct.
yeah,
Mirror what you're gonna do in the tournament, because that
exactly.
means you can get and the quality as well. Because remember when Nigeria had played Mexico before
Hmm.
the tournament starts, which it ended 1-1, and they said they were impressed with the style of Mexico. They're technical, but they play the same speed transition as to them. You
Hmm.
understand me? But they never played a quality team like Mexico in the region.
Yeah.
So, and Mexico never did anything in the competition. You understand
No,
me?
agreed.
So, if you had more reps, it would have helped. So that's something that they need to do more. But obviously, they're going to make the World Cup much more regular.
Hmm.
So,
Yes.
that might just help it eventually. So let me see how it goes.
Indeed, indeed. And again, just the awards for everyone who's missed. I do want to give a honorable mention to Julia Wozniak, the Polish goalkeeper. I think she was one of the better goalkeepers here, but again,
Mhm.
they ran into North Korea in the quarterfinals. But Golden Ball, you had John Chong, yeah, Paul the silver ball, and then Segura for the bronze ball. The golden boot was Powell, and then Kenny Fuller for the silver boot, and then Segura again for the bronze boot. Segura just leaving with bronze all the time. Good for her. But and then fair play goes to Nigeria, and then the Golden Gloves went to Evan Osteen of the United States. So those are your big commentators. Those are things, and we mentioned the format because as if for those of you who aren't aware, the format is changing due to, I mean, we'll say what FIFA says officially, and I'll give a side eye to that. Qatar is going to host the next editions of the men's, and Morocco is going to host the next 5 editions for the women's, but they're going to be consecutive years, which does create a little bit of an interesting conversation as to how you would approach this. FIFA says the decisions follow the global call for expressions of interest in hosting both competitions with a focusing on leveraging the use of existing football and infrastructure in the interest of tournament efficiencies and sustainability. That to me just sounds like they got a check, but I'm not going to say anything. Good for you.
Oh
Good for you.
my God.
You made
But
money. Hey,
I
good for
will
you.
not get involved. All right.
Hey,
Yes.
you're on the channel. You're getting involved. You can find that. I max
I
it.
was
We
just
max.
here. I was just here listening. Okay.
Mm. But the interesting change on the women's side is that both now the U20s and the U17s are jumping up to 24 teams, which means you're going to have four, pretty much four for every confederation,
Yes.
and one to two, which opens it up for the pitch. But now the thing that makes this interesting is they're having this competition on a yearly basis, which I know on the men's side in CONCACAF, they just had a roster drop for some friendlies they're going to play. But I'm wondering now, if you are a country that's been here or a country that's looking at this, how would you approach this? Would you approach this from the standpoint of, let's get a group of, say, 35 players and say, okay, let's keep them together, get the best out of them, and then you're going to have them together for maybe a year or two? Or do you just go on as you would normally and say, let's just find the best players, but let's try to maybe implement a system that they all can play so that they can come through, right? Not everyone's going to be a Spain where there's a, a broken down system that most players can play through. But I'm wondering, how would you approach this if, say, and then we'll use Nigeria as an example. If you're in Nigeria, how do you approach this? Do you just try to put together the group and keep them together? Or do you just try to get your best players, open the windows? It's going to be a great opportunity, but I think the speed of this can be interesting. How do you feel about it, first of all? And how would you try to prep if you were a federation anywhere?
I love what the direction that you're going in, because we just talked about it as to how Nigeria would get more competition and all of those things. So a yearly basis would have helped. But remember, it's not just this competition alone, it's others.
Mm-hmm.
So the good thing about it now, so what I would have done for both boys and girls, I would have what I think will happen. Let me put it, what I think will happen. What they will do now is to open up camps. All countries will have camps that they bring in from 12, 13 years old to maybe 21s. But they're going to split it maybe younger. So from 17 to the 11 years old. And you try to pick out from that. So you always have a conveyor belt of players coming through, because it's going to be on a yearly basis for a lot of the competitions. So at least now you can get national teams truly involved, not just the big teams, as what you said. The Spains, them can afford this. You get me? Because they have the clubs that already have the U17s, already have the U15s and all of those stuffs. So now every country could have the opportunity to do so, because it's more money coming through FIFA to pay them to put on these things. So I would say that you're going to have camps. This is going to explode football worldwide. That's what I would say, because now you have the money and you have the means. You get me? Because it's not like you're just training 15 kids for 2 years and they barely get a game, and they're not going to make it because you have United States and you have Mexico here. The fact that you have to qualify every single year to the competition, that's more games for every team. So even if you don't make it, your pool don't drop off so much. So for me, I think people having more pools and centers in their countries, that's the only way going through. And you're going to have a lot of kids through it. So a lot of kids will have opportunities.
Indeed. It's going to put a spotlight, I feel, especially in developing countries, the countries that actually invest in youth football and the countries that don't, right? I always make the comment where Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast, after hosting AFCON and winning AFCON last year, last year, they said they didn't have funds to fund their women's team, which was looking to qualify for the women's AFCON. And to me, I'm like, how do you spend all that money there? So it's good. It's going to put the spotlight on countries and their youth development, and you're going to look at clubs having academies for clubs who don't. I mean, in Canada, we're about to start our leagues. We've been just putting players together in development centers or hoping they're seen in colleges or wherever. It's going to put the emphasis on, hey, talent identification, but also coaching. And I think that is going to be the big thing that this could help, especially that's what these youth tournaments were made for. They were made as a showcase so that, hey, maybe the players who don't get scouted normally, maybe we get a look at a player who comes from, say, American Samoa, or a player who comes from somewhere else. And that's what it'll open up. But it'll be very interesting to kind of see now what they are now able to do moving forward into that. We already have teams that are qualified, which is the interesting thing. Asia's 4 teams have already qualified. North Korea is qualified. China, Japan, and South Korea. Morocco is hosting. They've already qualified. And then New Zealand and Samoa have qualified from Oceanic, but it's 5 teams from Europe, 4 teams from CONMEBOL, and then 4 teams from Africa and CONCACAF and there. So it's
how much from CONCACAF as well? 4 teams?
4 teams. Yeah, so top 4 would go through with the championship
Top
happening.
three, the top 3, and then find a way to put Damarp in it. That's how it's going to go.
Oh, it's not in Dom It's in Morocco now. Dom
Okay,
stopped hosting anything else.
thank God, thank God. So we can finally get the good teams. No disrespect, Damarp, but I knew that the other teams were better. All
Look,
right,
hey,
that's all I'm saying. You know,
we've seen that pitch. We watched that pitch for years, and it looked immaculate with the FIFA cameras. But I mean, looking at this will be interesting, which means depending on how they do their formatting, um, that'll be interesting. I wonder what CONCACAF does because CONCACAF always changes what their format will be. So I'm curious to kind of see what that'll look like.
so Morocco getting 5. No, Africa getting 5 then. Okay,
Yeah,
because they have
Africa's
to put
always going to get
Morocco in
five
it.
because they're
Okay,
the host. Yes.
so it moves from Damarp to Morocco. Okay.
In their defense, they've again. I won't sound like a shill, but hey, they put money into their pitches, so I'm
So
happy for
hold
them.
on, Damarp never put money in their pitches,
Oh,
but because
Dom
it's
Rep
Canada,
worked.
because it's Canada that lost the 3rd place, you have a problem with it. Oh,
No, no, no,
okay,
no, no, no,
okay.
no, 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 no. I didn't. Wow.
Okay. All
No, I had no
right.
issue. I think they played a good game. I think they just weren't able to get past Mexico,
Yeah,
and
but
that was the reality.
Canada would have done better, you know. And Canada
But
would have done better in the tournament. Believe
we
me.
wouldn't have hosted better. We don't have many grass
No,
pitches, but
we
that's a
know
whole
about the hosting, but football, I'm talking on the pitch. You know, we
fair
want
enough.
more representation from CONCACAF, and Canada
Mhm.
should have been there. You know, I would like
But
to see
still,
AD as well,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm not
But
gonna.
still, next year you have 3 tournaments that are gonna show no 4 tournaments that are gonna qualify teams for that, and these are gonna happen on an annual basis. So I'm very much curious to see what happens with that. It's gonna mean that for a lot of teams, starting to get camps in, like you said, I think camps and coaching education are gonna be the things that matter the most because you're gonna be with a group for a long period of time. And just to take a look up, and yep, we're keeping it the same way because it appears that just to confirm the things we had talked about before, Africa is still doing the same thing. They're doing 4 rounds of competitions, a home leg and away leg.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
so hopefully their teams can stay together a little bit better.
Jeez. Over
But
2 years.
over
Over.
2 years, well, the first leg starts at the end of November. So that first level, and then the
Okay.
next one.
Okay. Not
Yeah.
really. Okay. Oh,
So January, March, and then April, that'll be when it runs. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it is.
they need to do a ranking system and just put all the best players, best teams in one pool and just keep one event just like CONCACAF. I think it's actually better.
So you're saying they should do something where they rank based off of what their senior teams do, you rank their junior teams that way, and
Or you
then
put U20s because I think CONCACAF does not only use the senior, but they use like the U20s and U17
yeah.
to say what you're doing in your pool. Because remember, your competition that you're putting on was said to say that you're strengthening the pools of all
Mhm.
countries. So
Yeah.
why not use the ranking of the pools to base who actually, for instance, like Gambia. Gambia have a
Mm.
spell of U20s coming through. You understand
Yeah.
me? They are going to be ranked higher because obviously those guys had to play U17s. They never just disappeared and reappear from somewhere else, you know?
Fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's
So
a fair
that's
point
what
to
I'm
make. But
looking at.
yeah, but we'll wait and we'll see how it kind of goes through. Europe hasn't put their pots in, but it'll be very interesting, like we said, to see how it kind of works its way through. I'm curious to see what this does in terms of camps. I'm excited to see more camps, which might mean maybe in different periods of the year, you might get more. We might see more of those U17 friendlies windows where it's like, hey, the Canadians are out in Europe playing Poland and England or Nigeria or say Morocco. Well, Morocco is hosting, so Morocco is a prime team to go places and play friendlies. We'll see. Morocco should just have a nice get collect some air miles, girls, and travel the world and play teams. But I think it'll be interesting to see what that does. But still, a good tournament. I think CONCACAF hosted this well, well attended. I
Yes.
feel definitely. But now
Quality pitches.
we're going to be in Morocco. We're going to be Africa and Asia with Qatar and Morocco for these next 5 tournaments for U17s. The only last thing I would say would be I wish they had just gone to 32 teams. because they doubled the men up to 48 teams for their tournaments, and we just went up to 24 for the ladies. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to go to 32 and just have groups of 2. But we'll see how it goes. But guys, thank you for telling, and thank you for being here and watching. Let us know what you thought. Who were your favorite players? Who are the players that you felt could have done well? And until next time, guys, we'll just simply say bye-bye for now.